What's good? What's good? How y'all doing? Hopefully everybody is fine. Thank you for tapping in with the vibe. This is Wrestling with Fuze. And after making that DX Army Triple H Forms, the DX Army video, I received my first subscriber video request and I accepted the challenge. So shout out to Jeremiah Marshall and salute to everyone watching this video. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if it's your first time here. With that being said, let's vibe. And I had to go back and relive these moments just so I can break this down in my own opinion from the breakup of DX, the fall of DX. So I decided to start with the Monday Night Raw after the WWE Judgment Day 1998 pay-per-view. But before we start, I'm going to give y'all a little backstory on what happened at Judgment Day 1998. And it went down like this. It was a vacant WWF Championship belt on the line. You had The Undertaker versus Kane. Stone Cold Steve Austin was the special guest referee. Austin was ordered by Vince McMahon to call the match down the middle, make sure to declare a new WWF champion by the end of the pay-per-view, or Vince McMahon would fire Stone Cold Steve Austin on the spot. Now, that match saw Stone Cold hitting Kane and Undertaker with a chair, laying them both out. While they both was knocked out, he counted 1, 2, 3 on the mat, basically declaring himself the winner, taunting Mr. McMahon, not giving a beep. You already know what I mean. Vince McMahon fired Austin live on pay-per-view that night. Austin promised that Vince, this was not the last time Vince would see him, and said something about hunting. But with that being said, let's get into the first Monday Night Raw of this video. Bang 316, the night after Judgment Day 1998. Monday Night Raw, October 19th, 1998. Okay, let's go over some more events before I can get y'all caught up to what was the current state of the WWF or WWE at the time. Things that I feel was important to the storyline, you know what I mean? Now, at the time, McMahon had his own little fraction, his own little group. Which eventually was the corporation, but at this time it was more like the McMahon family. And the members were Shane McMahon, Briscoe, Pat Patterson, the commissioner at the time, Sergeant Slaughter, and Boss Man, and also Vince McMahon. So Raw started off with Vince McMahon celebrating the firing of Stone Cold. You know how much he hated Stone Cold. So he had every wrestler in the building, basically everybody, come down to ringside. The ring was packed. It was crazy, you know what I mean? Vince addressed the vacant WWF Championship at the time, since there was no winner at Judgment Day, the situation at Judgment Day, and he announced a 16-man tournament at the upcoming Survivor Series 1998 to determine the new WWF champion. Vince started shitting on Austin, and he also mentioned whatever Austin said right before the pay-per-view went off about going hunting. But he continued to joke on Austin, shitting on him, and that's when a live image of Austin appeared on the Titantron, and he was holding a hunting rifle. The crowd went crazy. Vince was scared and paranoid at that time. So throughout that Raw, Vince was like ordering the members of the family to do different things, which led him to be kind of by himself. He had some company with Mankind for a minute, but he couldn't stand Mankind, so he got Mankind the fuck up out of there. But if you know, you know, this is that classic episode of Raw, that classic Bang 316 episode of Raw, where Stone Cold hunted down Mr. McMahon, ended up taking him hostage for a minute. He was pissed that he was so somewhat fired, basically threatening to end Vince McMahon that night. So it was crazy. He played a legendary trick on McMahon, rolling him down to the ring. McMahon was in a wheelchair at the time. From some storyline, I guess he had got injured. Which you know about Stone Cold beating him up in the hospital and Mankind coming to visit him. He was around that era. So he rode him down to the ring, basically publicly humiliated Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon pissed his pants. He had a toy gun that said Bang 316. But he left Vince McMahon with a letter and also a stunner and also pissed pants. You feel me? But that's how Raw went off, and it was crazy. But let's get back to the DX part of this before I forget. Side note, X-Pac won the European Championship from D'Lo Brown at Judgment Day. So I hope everybody catching up. We still on Monday Night Raw, October 19th, 1998. And that night we saw X-Pac with Chyna versus Ken Shamrock. X-Pac won the match with an X Factor. Chyna was arrested during the match, which left people confused. In DX, they went to try to figure out what was going on, but she was in a side story with Mark Henry, something about sexual harassment or something like that. But she was in a little story with Mark Henry for some time. X-Pac won the match with the X Factor as stated, but that was like the only Degeneration X match on that card. Let's recruit. Time to expand. Monday Night Raw, October 26, 1998. Now, quick side note, Triple H was out with knee injuries, so the leader of DX was not around, so you're just going to mostly hear X-Pac and the New Age Outlaws when it come to DX, but I'm going to give you a breakdown of what was going on with them at the time. Now, Vince started off the show. We got to keep going with the Vince story. It all ties in, and you'll see. Vince starts off Raw by addressing last week's Raw, which he was humiliated and held hostage by Stone Cold. He was pissed. He was shitting on the family, on the corporation for having no help with Stone Cold. He also brought his lawyers to the show that day. That was crazy. He brought his lawyers to the show in attempts to break the letter or the contract that Austin gave him the prior week. So that whole night you saw cutscenes of Vince talking to the lawyers, demanding them to find a way to break that contract. You feel me? But let's get into some DX matches and let's see what happened as far as DX. Now, X-Pac went against Steve Blackman and he was able to win via DQ. Again, he was a European champion, and Steven Regal appeared and attacked X-Pac. It was like his first time appearing on Raw. At that time, he was prior he was a WCW superstar. The Outlaws came down to help X-Pac. So X-Pac won by DQ. Later that night, X-Pac, Road Dogg, and Billy Gunn performed with Motley Crue. That was cool to see. The New Age Outlaws was in competition that night. They went against Mankind and Al Snow. Now, they were the tag team champions at the time. I guess I should have stated that a little bit before. But this is their first match of this video. New Age Outlaws won the match. Road Dogg pinned Al Snow. After a misunderstanding or miscommunication from Mankind and Al Snow, they had their own little thing going on. Mark Henry and D'Lo Brown also came out and beat up the New Age Outlaws. Now, the last thing to add from this episode of Raw is that Shane McMahon revealed that he was the one that re-signed Stone Cold Steve Austin to a new contract, trading on his father and the McMahon family. And he laid a promo out on Vince telling him why. It was a good promo, seeing Shane out there talking. He really laid it on the Vince. Dope moment when you just see Shane getting into the mix and then you know Stephanie coming next. It's just dope to see that, if you ask me. But at that moment, Shane did the dope promo. Vince was heartbroken. And Shane was siding with Stone Cold, rebelling against his father. And that was that Monday Night Raw. Let's get into the next. A new crew. Monday Night Raw, November 2nd, 1998. Now, on this Monday Night Raw, we saw X-Pac, Road Dogg, and Billy Gunn go against the Brood. Match ended, no contest. Kane came out to the ring, chokeslam about everybody around. Also that night, we saw Vince start his beef with The Rock. He stated at that time on that Raw if he had a problem with the people, because he was pissed off at the people as well. Stone Cold, he was just pissed off. He had a problem with the people's champ. So he started putting the heat on The Rock. You feel what I'm saying? That night, Vince McMahon put The Rock against Ken Shamrock, and he had to win the match versus Ken Shamrock or he would lose his entry into the upcoming 16-man tournament at Survivor Series for the WWF Championship. The Rock lost that match. He started tripping out. Vince got him arrested. Vince screwed The Rock. Started a little tension between him and The Rock. Win or get fired, Rock. Monday Night Raw, November 9th, 1998. Okay, let's get into it. As far as the DX storyline, we saw X-Pac in a match with The Undertaker, which ended in a no contest. Kane came down, gunning for The Undertaker, tried to shoot a fireball out his hand to The Undertaker, but it hit X-Pac in the eye. Also that night, we saw Road Dogg with Billy Gunn on his side versus D'Lo with Mark Henry on his side versus Mosh with Thrasher by his side. Mosh and Thrasher from the Headbangers. Shane McMahon was the referee. It was just a match leading up to like a tag team matchup between all three for the championship belt, I believe. Mosh won that match with the mosh pit to D'Lo Brown. Side note, Vince tried to befriend Mankind somewhat, you know what I'm saying? Like treat him like a son since he felt heartbroken about what Shane did the prior week. So that was big on this Raw. He kind of gave Mankind the hardcore title already, so that night he was giving him a makeover. And it was like he was trying to recruit Mankind to the corporation by Mankind being so gullible. He was just giving him bare minimum and playing on that as far as Mankind. Vince played on a lot of wrestlers to make them join the corporation, but we'll hear about that later. Also, Vince McMahon continued to put the pressure on The Rock. He was in a match against Mark Henry on this Raw, and if The Rock lost, he would get fired. But if he was able to win, he'd be back in the Survivor Series 16-man tournament. The Rock was able to win with the help from Shane McMahon coming down and counting the 1, 2, 3 because the referee was knocked out. The Rock gives Vince the rock bottom and the people's elbow to end the night. The Rock sells out at Survivor Series 1998, Monday Night Raw, November 16th, 1998. Survivor Series saw Shane McMahon screw Stone Cold and The Rock selling out on the people and joining Vince McMahon in the corporation. Yes, Shane McMahon was playing a game on Austin. The Rock and Vince were playing their own game for a few weeks. The Rock was the new corporate champion. Shane McMahon was back in the corporation. Long story short, Stone Cold showed up to Raw with a contract that guaranteed him a WWE title match against The Rock on Raw, and it was going down. Now let's get into some DX matches in the DX storyline. New Age Outlaws and X-Pac, they went against the Odysseys. Crazy match. They had Luna on their side as well. The Outlaws won the match. Nothing too spectacular, but they was on Raw. Another side note, on this episode of Raw, Vince officially recruited Ken Shamrock into the corporation as well. Shamrock was pissed off at Boss Man for some reason. They had a match for his belt, which ended in DQ. They were just beating each other's asses. Vince came down with Shane, and he was able to stop them from fighting, basically playing on the mind of Ken Shamrock, letting him know, like, you more like Boss Man, do you know? Y'all come from fucked up families, don't nobody care for y'all or whatever. So come join the corporation family, which Shamrock accepted. And now you got Shamrock a part of the corporation. So you got Boss Man Shamrock. You still got Briscoe Pat, Shane, The Rock, the corporate champ now. The corporation is growing. Also, to follow up on the Stone Cold and McMahon feud, Stone Cold was given the title shot versus The Rock that night on Raw. It went down. The Undertaker came down and hit Austin with a shovel, leading to Austin winning by DQ but not getting a belt. Also setting up a feud between the two. Stone Cold and Undertaker started their little feud. Undertaker was starting his thing, which we'll get into in a minute. But it was lit at this time. It was a lot going on. That's why I kind of got to break this down, because stuff tying too in some sense. And I should state that Undertaker and Paul Bearer reunited at Survivor Series. It's a new commissioner in town. Now, this is a key show if you ask me. We on Monday Night Raw, 11/23/1998. Vince McMahon and the corporation start off Raw. Vince talks about how he had nothing to do with Undertaker hitting Stone Cold with a shovel, costing him the WWF title on the prior week's Raw. He also announced that it will be a new commissioner of the WWF after Commissioner Sergeant Slaughter graciously stepped down to help advance the WWE. Now, this new commissioner, Vince McMahon said, will not answer to no one, not even Vince. That is important. He will also have full rights over every superstar except Stone Cold Steve Austin. Vince McMahon wanted Stone Cold for himself. Now, side note, Stone Cold had fainted like a day or so prior to Monday Night Raw from the shovel shot from the Undertaker, so he was in the hospital on this episode. Vince announced Shawn Michaels, HBK, as the new commissioner. The crowd went wild. HBK came out to his sexy boy music, but a little plot twist, HBK showed up a little bit too arrogant, some would say. His first match booked was The Rock, the corporate champion, versus longtime friend and Click member X-Pac in a WWF title match. It left Vince McMahon and the corporation confused. Did Vince make the wrong decision by hiring Shawn Michaels as the new commissioner? Shawn Michaels left the ring with the DX music, which was kind of interesting if you ask me. He came with the sexy boy music and left with the DX music. It was kind of confusing. Now, throughout the show, they showed Shawn Michaels and Vince McMahon talking to each other on cutscenes, like Shawn Michaels assuring Vince McMahon that this is all a part of his plan, like stay calm, you know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to come mess up the program or whatever, not. Let's get into some DX storyline action from this Raw. We saw the New Age Outlaws versus the Job Squad, Bob Holly and Too Cool Scorpio. Job Squad won the match with an assist from Mankind. He hit Billy Gunn with a leaf blower, but Mankind was he was affiliated with the Job Squad, El Snow and all them. You know what I'm saying? So that happened. You know what I'm saying? Outlaws lost to the Job Squad. Also that night, like we stated, The Rock, the corporate champ, versus X-Pac. The Rock came out with the corporation. X-Pac came out with the New Age Outlaws. This was for the WWF title. HBK made both parties go to the back. Long story short, during the match, HBK got involved. He saved X-Pac by grabbing a chair from The Rock. Rock was about to hit X-Pac with the chair. People thought that he may hit The Rock with the chair. Instead, HBK hit X-Pac with the chair himself. Crowd went crazy. New Age Outlaws came down to save X-Pac, but they was met by Boss Man and Ken Shamrock. It was crazy. HBK was officially with the corporation. He was siding with the corporation. Everybody was shocked from his actions, and that's kind of how Raw left off that night. The return of the Game. Monday Night Raw, November 30th, 1998. Now, a little backstory real quick on that. Sunday Night Heat prior to Raw, Vince tried to recruit the New Age Outlaws into the corporation. Gotta let that be known. Now, on this night, we saw the New Age Outlaws versus the Brood, Edge and Gangrel with Christian ringside. We saw Vince and the corporation come out to support the New Age Outlaws. The match ended as a DQ. Outlaws win. Christian hit Billy Gunn with the tag team title belt. Shamrock and Bossman came down to help the Outlaws, beating the shit out the Brood. Leaving the people confused, are the New Age Outlaws the newest members of the corporation? Is DX over? Triple H is still out with a knee injury. You know what I mean? Now, side story, Chyna is still in a storyline with Mark Henry, so we're not seeing her come out as much with DX. And another side story, Austin was there on Raw trying to hunt down Undertaker after being released from the hospital, but Taker was ready. Continue on with this week's Raw. We saw X-Pac in an HBK promo. X-Pac addressed the situation with the Outlaws joining the corporation by saying, if you want to know what's up with the New Age Outlaws, ask the New Age Outlaws. X-Pac then called out his longtime friend and Click member HBK for costing him the WWE Championship match the prior week on Raw and hitting him with a chair. HBK, cocky as he want to be, comes down to the ring. HBK mentioned that he was the new sheriff in town, not a wrestler, and for X-Pac not to lay a hand on him, but if he was a wrestler, he would beat the kid up. HBK then issued a match with the European champion X-Pac versus the Intercontinental champion Ken Shamrock for X-Pac's European title. Yes, it was a title versus title match, but only X-Pac's belt was on the line. HBK also reminded X-Pac that he was DX before DX was cool. Shit was getting real. So it was a championship versus championship match that night. And let's get into it. We saw X-Pac versus Ken Shamrock, European title match. Bossman came in and interfered. HBK distracted the ref, grabbing the ref. And the corporation was about to screw X-Pac out of his European title until Triple H came, saved X-Pac, saved the day. Triple H was back, leaving HBK pissed. The crowd went crazy. It was lit. WWE Monday Night Raw, December 7th, 1998. Raw starts with 3/5 of the DX coming down to the ring. That's Triple H, X-Pac, and Chyna. Triple H cuts a promo calling out the New Age Outlaws. Billy Gunn and Road Dogg show up in suits. Crazy, right? Corporate Outlaws. Road Dogg, Esquire, and Badass Inc. And they bring out HBK. Now this is the HBK and Triple H promo. First off, Triple H, if you want to talk about who does and who doesn't have balls around here, let's start with you. Let's go back in time to the birth of Degeneration X. I mean, let's face it, the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels is the founding father of Degeneration X. And as far as I'm concerned, I think you at least owe me an apology. If anything else, I would think gimmick infringement. Triple H then says, let's get this straight. I owe you nothing. HBK cuts him off. You don't owe me anything. You don't owe me for riding my coattails virtually all your career. You don't owe me for turning you into somebody when you were an absolute nobody. Triple H responds, a nobody? Let me think back. I think it was me that was carrying your dead ass around while you were trying to walk around with a belt you had no business carrying anymore. And after Wrestlemania, after you got burnt, it was me that picked up the ball. HBK responds, oh no. Oh no, 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 no. You didn't pick up the ball. In fact, I've had balls you never have. And let me tell you something, punk, shoves Triple H. I made you and I can break you. Triple H responds, let's get this straight, Shawn. The only thing broken down around here is your ego, little man. And if you don't get it, let me break it down for you because I got 2 words for you. Suck it. HBK responds with, well, seeing is that I'm the new commissioner of the WWF, I got something you can suck on. You and your little buddy X-Pac here will have the privilege of taking on Big Boss Man and Ken Shamrock in a tag team match tonight. Now, you've stolen a lot of my lines before, but you still remember the little ditty we had, you make the rules and we break them? Well, you don't have to worry about breaking the rules. This will be an anything goes match, and if the New Age Outlaws happen to get involved, well then so be it. Now hit my music. DX music drops. Shawn Michaels walks out. Also that night, it was a cutscene with Triple H and X-Pac Chyna discussing plans. X-Pac letting Chyna know that this is where you come in handy. Make sure they watch their backs from Road Dogg and Billy Gunn because they don't know what's going on with the New Age Outlaws. Also, it was a cut scene that night with HBK, Ken Shamrock, Boss Man, the Corporate Outlaws having a meeting in the back in a room. Raw was lit. Triple H was back. Shawn Michaels the new commissioner. It was crazy. Now let's get into the match. DX, Triple H, and X-Pac versus Boss Man and Ken Shamrock hardcore tag team match. HBK and the Corporate Outlaws are at ringside. Long story short, Shawn Michaels got involved in a match, causing X-Pac to fall out of the ring and also throwing a chair in the ring for Ken Shamrock and Big Boss Man can put the beating on Triple H. But Badass Inc. at the time demanded Shamrock let him hit Triple H with the chair so he can show his loyalty to the corporation. Billy Gunn grabs the chair from Shamrock and hits Shamrock instead of Triple H. Crowd goes wild. The Outlaws tear off their suits, revealing their Degeneration X attire. HBK's plan backfired. After that, it went into an In Your House edition, In Your House pay-per-view, the Rock Bottom 1998 edition. We saw the New Age Outlaws versus Shamrock and Big Boss Man with HBK by their side for the tag team championship belts. Most of the match was spent beating up on Road Dogg, building up a hot tag to Billy Gunn. The Outlaws won the match. Billy was able to pin Ken Shamrock. The highlight of that pay-per-view was Jeff Jarrett losing to Goldust, and Deborah had to strip down to a bra and panties. Big deal at that time. Now let's get into Monday Night Raw, December 14th, 1998. New Age Outlaws went against Boss Man and Ken Shamrock with HBK by their side for the WWE Championship belts. Boss Man and Ken Shamrock was able to win. HBK hit Billy Gunn with the knife stick. So Boss Man and Ken Shamrock was the new WWE Tag Team Champions. Now also on this night, we saw a promo from Vince McMahon and Shane McMahon. McMahon was mad at Kane and Mankind, put them in a match. And also during the promo, him and Shane McMahon pulled Royal Rumble spots for Stone Cold and Vince McMahon because Vince McMahon declared himself a participant in the 1999 Royal Rumble. Well, long story short, Shane pulled number 1 for Stone Cold Steve Austin, which means Stone Cold was to come in the Royal Rumble #1, and Vince was ready to pull his spot, and he jokingly said, "I hope I pull #2." That comes back later, so that's why I said that. But Shane pulled number 30, so Stone Cold pulled #1, Shane pulled number 30. Also, Vince put a bounty out on Austin at the Royal Rumble, stating that whoever throws Austin out of the Royal Rumble will receive $100,000. It was going down. During the promo, Mankind came out, challenged Vince to a fight. They eventually fought that night. Mankind was whooping up on Vince, but Rock came out, helped Vince, putting a rock bottom on Mankind on top of a car. Classic moment as well. But let's get into some DX storyline from that night. We had The Rock versus Triple H for the WWF title. HBK tried to screw Triple H by hitting him with the belt, but it was only a 2 count. Chyna confronted HBK, hemmed him up, referee got involved, and then the debut of Test. Test came in, put his finisher to HBK. The Rock won the match. Test was the newest member of the corporation. The corporation was growing stronger and stronger. Now you got Ken Shamrock, Boss Man, The Rock, Test, Vince, Shane, Pat, Briscoe. It was getting crazy in the corporation. Shane's in charge. DX versus the corporation. Monday Night Raw, December 21st, 1998, the Christmas episode. Now, Vince McMahon had business to handle, so he left Shane McMahon in charge. He told Pat Patterson, Briscoe, to watch over him, boss man. And he also promised to bring back a Christmas bonus. So that night, Shane McMahon was in charge. Soon as Vince left, Shane McMahon got on his shit. Raw starts Shane in the corporation and HBK. They in the ring. Shane doing a promo. DX interrupts Shane McMahon. Triple H, he pissed from the prior week. Test debuting, costing him the WWE title. Now, DX also brought out Mankind. It was like the start of their little alliance. You know what I'm saying? HBK gave DX matches for Raw, so he gave all the members matches. Billy Gunn was going against Ken Shamrock for the Intercontinental title. Road Dogg was going against the Hardcore Champion Big Boss Man. Triple H and X-Pac was to go against The Rock and Test. And also, Shane McMahon challenged Mankind to a match. Mankind kind of provoked him into a match. So it was Mankind versus Shane. The corporation didn't like that. They was like, no, Shane, don't do it. Because they was responsible for Shane while Vince wasn't there. But let's get straight into the night. This night was crazy. Kind of was a key night as well in this whole little storyline. Now, the first match was Billy Gunn versus Ken Shamrock. The announcer said it was for the Intercontinental Championship, so everybody thought it was for the title. Billy Gunn won the match, and then HBK came down and said it was not for the title. When he said it was Billy Gunn versus Ken Shamrock earlier, he did not say it was for the Intercontinental title. So Billy Gunn won the match, but he was not the Intercontinental champ. So corporation kind of screwed Billy Gunn. That was one for the corporation on this night. The next match, we saw Road Dogg and Boss Man. Now, Road Dogg was smart, so he challenged Boss Man to put his hardcore title on the line before the match started. And after Road Dogg talked some shit to Boss Man accepted the challenge. So now this match was for the Hardcore Championship. They fought and they beat each other ass. It was a nice match. You started to see how Road Dogg could be good at these hardcore matches. Now they fought, it led into the crowd. Dope little match if you ask me. It led into the crowd, led further into the crowd as you start to go into the backstage area of the arena. And that's when Mankind came out helping Road Dogg, netting the Boss Man, throwing a net over the Boss Man, hitting him with a stick. Road Dogg was able to get the win. It was crazy. So one of the members of the corporation lost their belt while Vince was gone. Vince most likely was going to be pissed. Cutscenes throughout the Raw, we saw Briscoe and Pat Patterson attempting to stop Shane from his upcoming match with Mankind, but Shane was determined to fight Mankind. And while we at it, we might as well get into that match, Shane versus Mankind. HBK was crazy on this one. Now, Shane versus Mankind. Long story short, the corporation came down. They tried to come down to help, but HBK wouldn't let them come down and help. Mankind basically beat the out of Shane McMahon. At the end of the match, The Rock and a few corporate members were able to break loose of Shawn Michaels, come down and help Shane McMahon, but it was kind of too late. Mankind put a beating on him. DX came down to support Mankind as the corporation tried to whoop his ass. It was a crazy night. Now after that, Vince McMahon returned to the arena and he was very, very pissed when he found out what happened to Shane. Briscoe couldn't hold it in, let him know right away, which I thought was funny. And that leads into the Triple H and X-Pac versus The Rock and Test. Triple H and X-Pac came out with the rest of DX. The Rock and Test came out with HBK, Ken Shamrock, and the Boss Man. Side note, Billy Gunn was having fun this episode. His energy was great. Now, before the match, HBK ordered the whole DX to go to the back, but the corporation could stay at ringside. They were setting up to screw Triple H and X-Pac. But when he said that, Vince came down and vetoed his ruling and told HBK to let DX stay at ringside. He was pissed and he had something up his sleeve. Side note, Test's debut was crazy kinda because he debuted with all his peers around ringside and the owner at ringside. Everybody was at ringside on his debut tag team match. I just thought I wanted to just add that right there. But Test did good though, you know what I'm saying? He did a good job, except when he took the knee from Triple H. It looked kind of crazy, but he did take the pedigree pretty good, you know what I'm saying? Long story short, the match ended and Kane came down in support of the corporation. We haven't seen Kane in a minute since his feud with The Undertaker and Paul Bearer. They got him locked in an insane asylum. So that was the Christmas bonus McMahon had promised. He was going off to get Kane out of the insane asylum and make him join the corporation. The corporation was getting stronger and stronger. Kane was the newest member of the corporation. So to recap, the corporation had the corporate champ, The Rock. It had Boss Man, Ken Shamrock. It had Test. It had Kane. It had Shane, Vince, Briscoe, Pat Patterson. Last Raw of the year, no contest. Monday Night Raw, December 28, 1998. Vince starts off, he's hot from last week and his baby boy getting stumped on by Mankind. He promised to get revenge on everybody involved in that situation and also promised to publicly fire and humiliate Shawn Michaels as the WWE commissioner. They start off the show. Vince and the corporation gave Mankind a visit, beat his ass, and then gave him a hardcore match against Road Dogg, who he helped win the hardcore belt from Boss Man. So the first match we saw Road Dogg versus Val Venis for the hardcore championship. He had no clue that Vince McMahon just set up a match with Mankind versus him. And basically he was in for a double match that night because if he beat Val Venis, he had to go against Mankind later on. The corporate team came to ringside. Test interfered, giving Val Venis a bulldog. They focused on Val Venis, not Road Dogg. They just beat up Val Venis. DX came down to support Road Dogg. Vince came out to address the Degeneration X. So the matches of the night were as followed. Road Dogg versus Mankind for the hardcore title. X-Pac versus Boss Man for the European title. Billy Gunn versus The Godfather. Triple H versus Ken Shamrock for the IC title. A little backstory on Triple H and Ken Shamrock. Triple H had a knee injury which caused him to vacate the IC belt. Shamrock had won a tournament. And then a couple of months back, Shamrock had slammed Triple H's knee in a car door, which caused him to go rehab a little bit longer. So this match was mostly revenge for Triple H, and it was also, well, it wasn't his first match back. During the episode, we also saw a cutscene I think is important to say of Vince telling Kane to bring back a member of the Degeneration X. We really never understood that part, but I think I know where that led to. But let's get into some of these matches for the night. It also was the first time we saw a video of Vince training for the Royal Rumble, which I thought was cool. Them vignettes of him and Shane was very, very funny and entertaining. But let's continue. Triple H versus Ken Shamrock for the IC title. It was a no contest. Shamrock did not break the ankle lock. All-out brawl between DX and the corporation. After that, we saw a cutscene of the corporation jumping The Godfather before his match with Billy Gunn. So that kind of led to like what was up with that. So the next match was Billy Gunn versus The Godfather. But since Godfather was just attacked in the back by the corporation came down and replaced The Godfather with Corporate Kane. We saw Shamrock come down and interfere in that match, put the ankle lock on Billy Gunn. It was a no contest. Briscoe and Pat Patterson just kept asking Kane to chokeslam Billy Gunn. DX came down there to save him. That was that. Let's get into this Road Dogg and Mankind match. It was the second match for Road Dogg. It was for his Hardcore Championship again. Mankind delivered an elbow to Road Dogg, sending him through a table. I liked that spot. The Rock was commentating during the match, which he ended up getting involved in the match. Hit Mankind with the rock bottom. Road Dogg was able to win. But when he found out that the Rock had hit the rock bottom on Mankind to help him win, he was kind of pissed because of the alliance between Mankind and DX at the time. So I thought that was dope. Now, during all this chaos on Raw, Vince McMahon was still awaiting Shawn Michaels to arrive at the building so he could fire him publicly. And Shawn Michaels did arrive at the building, which Vince called him out to the ring and began to shit on him, showing him old footage of HBK shitting on Vince and just telling him everything where it went wrong. He even said, "You became the WWE champion." That was the beginning of the end. Vince cut a dope promo. HBK stood there and took it. Vince fired him as the commissioner, so that meant he could still be a wrestler, but he fired him as the commissioner, let him know he was a shit commissioner, a great wrestler, but a shit commissioner. HBK Sweet Chin music to Vince was crazy. Kicked the shit out of Vince, ending Raw, ending off WWE for that year. That was 1998. 1998 was crazy for the WWE, if you ask me. Monday Night Raw, January 4th, 1999. You're fired, Shawn Michaels. Now, on this Raw, we saw Shawn Michaels show up after being fired last week and also kicking Vince in the face last week. And he brought some backup this time. He brought out the Degeneration X to back him up. Classic moment. Crowd went wild. You feel me? And he talked his shit. He stated how his contract as the WWF commissioner was solid. Vince McMahon could do nothing about it, and damn sure couldn't fire him, seeing as Vince stated publicly that this new commissioner answered to no one, not even himself. So Shawn Michaels was good on that part. Vince McMahon couldn't just fire Shawn Michaels. And with that being said, since Vince McMahon was a participant in the 1999 Royal Rumble, he was an active member of the roster, which gave Shawn Michaels permission and rights over him as far as the Royal Rumble goes. And Shawn Michaels began to veto his number 30 spot, giving Vince McMahon the number 2 spot. That's right, Vince McMahon would be number 2, Stone Cold would be number 1 in the 1999 Royal Rumble. Now we saw a match with Triple H versus Mankind. The winner was to receive a spot in the 1999 Royal Rumble. Now before the match, Vince McMahon, he went crazy on Mankind, talking shit to Mankind, saying how he wasn't going to ever be the WWF champion, how he can't represent the company. A lot of shit. He was pissed off that Mankind whooped on his son like that, alright? So he also made Shane McMahon a special guest referee for this match, Mankind versus Triple H. Long story short, Triple H won the match from a fast count via Shane McMahon. Now, Triple H tried to show loyalty to the alliance he had with Mankind at the time by pedigreeing Shane McMahon and leaving him in the mercy of Mankind, in which Mankind took advantage of the moment, putting Shane McMahon in a hole, in a lock, stretching him out, demanding Vince get him a title match tonight versus The Rock. And it was crazy. So Vince gave in because Shane was in pain. Vince gave in, gave Mankind the title match that night versus The Rock. The Rock was pissed. Side note, I forgot to state that Shawn Michaels said something about leaving out later on that night and going to get a surprise for Vince McMahon that would have him go stone cold crazy. Now later on that night, we saw Degeneration X walking out Shawn Michaels to his car, walking him out of the building. It was a strange moment for me because Triple H was acting all strange. Him and X-Pac said some strange things. Triple H gave Shawn Michaels his keys, right? And Shawn Michaels was leaving, and Triple H was acting all weird. Shawn Michaels was like, "No worries, man, I'll be right back." You know what I'm saying? And as he left out the arena, Triple H said, "Maybe, maybe not." And X-Pac said something about like, "What goes around comes around." So he leaves out the arena. And as soon as he leaves out the arena, he noticed that he had the wrong keys. He can't get in his car. So he goes back, knocks on the door, like, hey, y'all, let me back in. It was too late, you know what I'm saying? He turns around to the corporation, and they slaughtered him. They slaughtered him, leaving him bloody on top of the car. I thought that was a key point in this storyline, but I think that comes up like later on in Triple H and Shawn Michaels storyline, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But I thought that was key a key point in this storyline as far as Triple H showing his loyalty to Degeneration X. But I just had to mention that right there. Shawn Michaels bloody, fucked up, he's gone. You know what I mean? Let's get into the WWE title match that night. Mankind versus The Rock. This was important. Mankind was able to beat The Rock with an assist from Stone Cold and the help from DX, from his alliance with DX. So now it all makes sense. The alliance, they helped Mankind beat The Rock, screw the corporation. It was crazy. Mankind winning the WWF title. WWE Raw, January 11th, 1999. Vince McMahon announces a corporate Royal Rumble with all members from DX versus all members from the corporation. The winner of the Royal Rumble will get the 30th entry in the 1999 Royal Rumble. But all DX members had a match prior to the Royal Rumble. The first match was Jeff Jarrett on Hart versus the New Age Outlaws. Jeff Jarrett on Hart was able to win, getting the #1 contender spot for the tag team titles. X-Pac defending his European Championship against Al Snow, was able to win. Also, we saw Triple H with Chyna by his side versus Edge. He won the match, but the Brood came down, turned off all the lights. DX ran down to save Triple H and Chyna. Road Dogg got hit with a Brood bloodbath and was pissed about it. Chyna was also seen on that Raw coming down to save Mark Henry, as she was still involved in the Mark Henry storyline. Mankind also had a match that night against Kane for the WWE Championship. We saw The Rock interfere in the match, hitting Kane and Mankind with a chair. Kane and The Rock were both members of the corporation at the time. Just thought I'll state that. But let's get into the corporate Royal Rumble. The corporate Royal Rumble, the first entry was Ken Shamrock from the corporation. The second entry was Billy Gunn from DX. Ken Shamrock eliminated himself before the match even started. He didn't let Billy Gunn get in the ring. He punched him down and just flew over the top ropes at Billy Gunn. He was pissed at Billy Gunn for some prior shit. The third person to come down was Bossman from the corporation. The fourth person to come down was Test. Even though they played DX music, the Outlaws music, Test came out from the corporation. So now we had Test and Bossman double teaming Billy Gunn. The fifth person to come down was X-Pac from DX. Billy Gunn got eliminated by Test, so Test and Bossman began to double team X-Pac. The sixth person to enter the Rumble was Road Dogg from DX. The seventh person to enter the Royal Rumble was Kane. He eliminated Road Dogg, and X-Pac was by himself again, this time 3-on-1. The last entry of the Rumble was Triple H from DX. He came down to help X-Pac. Test hit Kane by mistake, and then Kane tossed Test out of the ring. Triple H and X-Pac were able to eliminate Kane together. Then Bossman threw X-Pac out of the Rumble. So we were down to Triple H and Bossman to get the 30th spot in the Royal Rumble when Vince McMahon came down as the last participant in this corporate Royal Rumble, surprising everybody. Bossman was trying to throw Triple H over the ropes. Mr. McMahon saw his opportunity, throwing both of them over the ropes, winning the Royal Rumble. So as he thought, Chyna then came down as the last member for Degeneration X. She came down to the ring. Mr. McMahon was trying to get her stopped by Pat and Briscoe. She knocked them out. Stone Cold came down, got Vince McMahon's attention, distracted McMahon. Chyna threw McMahon over the ropes, winning the Royal Rumble. Crazy botch by Mr. McMahon as he went over the ropes. But that ended that episode of Monday Night Raw. Monday Night Raw, January 18th, 1999. We saw Road Dogg get a win over Gangrel in a Hardcore Championship match. Dope part of that match, the table didn't break, so they just had to continue to try to break the table. Kind of crazy. Also, we saw Billy Gunn versus Test. Billy Gunn won. Shamrock interfered in the match. We also saw the beginning of Kane and The Rock kind of beefing. Monday Night Raw, January 25th, 1999, the Raw at the Royal Rumble 99. Vince McMahon gives up his rights to the Wrestlemania match at the winning of the 1999 Royal Rumble. HBK then gives Steve Austin the #1 contender spot. Austin then challenged Vince McMahon to a cage match in which he would put his #1 contender spot on the line. Let's get into some DX matches for that night. Goldust versus Billy Gunn with Triple H and Chyna coming down with him. Triple H started off by doing a promo, but not by saying his famous intro and promo. He began to call out The Rock for an I Quit match. The Rock had beat Mankind in an I Quit match at Royal Rumble, winning the WWE Championship. After that, Billy Gunn went on to win the match versus Goldust. Blue Dust came down to the ring, distracted Goldust. Billy Gunn was able to get the win. Now later on that night, we saw Shane, Pat, and Briscoe come down with Kane. They started humiliating Kane. That was kind of Briscoe and Pat Patterson thing. They was doing that to Kane weeks prior. But X-Pac came down, interrupting them and just saying stop with the bull. He tired of them trying to take advantage of Kane, trying to tell Kane to come join DX and lead the corporation alone. Now this was kind of the start of X-Pac versus Shane McMahon, and also the X-Pac and Kane storyline as well. X-Pac was about to fight Shane, but got a choke slam from Kane. Kane was still with the corporation. A Bronco Buster from Shane to X-Pac add insult to injury. And let's get into some more matches. Road Dogg had a hardcore tag team match with Al Snow. So Road Dogg and Al Snow versus the Brood, which I thought was weird. But I think this was the beginning of the breakup somewhat. They were beginning to break up the Outlaws. They were going to break up the Outlaws as a tag team and have them do the individual solo missions. And I'm wondering if since they was going to break up the Outlaws, they were planning on probably breaking up DX as well. So we start to see the fall of DX when we starting to see shit like this. Road Dogg and Al Snow versus the Brood. But anyways, Road Dogg and Al Snow won the match with an assist from Blue Dust. He comes out again, gives Al Snow his head that he got from Goldust prior from the Goldust and Billy Gunn match. I guess I should have stated that. When he came out and distracted Goldust, he got the head back from Goldust. I guess Goldust and Al Snow had a little feud. So he gave Al Snow back his head down, and Al Snow used that to help him and Road Dogg beat the Brood in that hardcore tag team match. It was kind of dope, and you start to see Al Snow and Road Dogg go into a little storyline for the hardcore championship, but also being partners at times with this hardcore scene, doing hardcore tag team matches. A side note, The Undertaker was putting his plan in motion day by day. Okay, on to Triple H versus The Rock in an I Quit match for the WWF title. Triple H had Chyna by his side. The corporation came down and grabbed Chyna, forcing Triple H to say I quit. Kane was about to choke slam her, so he said I quit. Triple H ran in there to help her out, and that's when Chyna shocked the world by trading on Triple H, joining the corporation. So again, this episode, we saw Billy Gunn in singles competition. We saw Road Dogg teaming with a different tag team partner, and we saw Chyna turning her back on DX, fucking over Triple H after basically convincing him to lose because he was about to win. He was giving The Rock like mad pedigrees. He was about to give him a pedigree on the announcement table. Probably would have won the match, the I Quit match, but he gave it up to save Chyna. Chyna fucks him over, turns her back, and joins the corporation. So, is January 25th, 1999 the beginning of the end? Let's see. Shane is in charge of Raw again. Monday Night Raw, February 1st, 1999. Shane McMahon starts off the Monday Night Raw talking mad shit to X-Pac. And as he's talking trash to X-Pac, the steel cage above the ring starts to come down. And he doesn't notice X-Pac hanging on to the steel cage. Eventually the cage come down and it's X-Pac and Shane McMahon alone in the ring. Now you would think the corporation was coming out to help, but DX had attacked the corporation in the back, so no help for Shane until Chyna comes out to save the day, basically showing her loyalty to the corporation after turning on DX the week prior. Alright, let's get into some matchups. We saw Billy Gunn versus Val Venus with Ken Shamrock at ringside. Now, Ken Shamrock and Val Venus had a storyline about Ken Shamrock's sister. Billy Gunn was slightly involved. He had mooned Ken Shamrock's sister a week prior or so. So Billy Gunn was starting to get in the mix of the IC title situation. Again, splitting up as tag team partners with Road Dogg as far as the New Age Outlaws, as we see. Side note, The Undertaker recruited the Brood that night to his ministry, and I haven't been keeping y'all really up to date, but he had the acolytes Farouk and Bradshaw. He had Midian. Now he had the Brood. He eventually gets Viscera. You see all this take fold. You see all this unfold while everything else is going on. Another matchup that night was Road Dogg and Al Snow versus the Acolytes in the Hardcore Tag Team matchup. We saw Viscera slam Al Snow into a table outside. The Acolytes got the 2-on-1 advantage on Road Dogg in the ring. Powerbombed him through a table. 1, 2, 3. Acolytes win. Ministry of Darkness was slowly taking over. Now, the last DX match of the night, we saw Triple H versus Kane in a cage match. Triple H was able to win. Now, X-Pac stopped Kane from exiting the cage, and Chyna tried to stop Triple H from exiting the cage, but she couldn't. Triple H won the match. Chyna was pissed and challenged Triple H at St. Valentine's Day Massacre pay-per-view 1999, which became official. It was X-Pac Triple H versus Kane and Chyna at St. Valentine's Day Massacre 1999, the first time a female was involved in a male match. As far as being like fighting the males, not like a mixed tag team match, as far as a female being involved in the actual tag match. Monday Night Raw, February 13th, 1999. Triple H and DX started off with a promo. Triple H calls out Chyna, talks about their upcoming match at St. Valentine's Day Massacre pay-per-view. X-Pac talks a lot of shit to Kane. Road Dogg talks shit to Al Snow. Billy Gunn talks about not having a match at the pay-per-view, but he came up with an idea of getting himself involved with the IC title situation, and he will be the special guest referee for the matchup between Val Venus and Ken Shamrock at the St. Valentine's Day Massacre pay-per-view. So that promo, we basically saw each member of DX cut promos on their upcoming matchups for the upcoming pay-per-view, if you get what I'm saying. More single stuff, but they still a group. That night we saw X-Pac versus Kane. Chyna came in giving a low blow to X-Pac. X-Pac was able to win via disqualification. After the match, Kane and Chyna jumped X-Pac. Triple H came down to save the day, just setting up their match for St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Now let's get to the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Let's get into these matchups. Billy Gunn was a special guest referee for Shamrock versus Val Venus for the Intercontinental Championship. He did a lot of slow counts during the match. During the match, we also saw Ryan Shamrock, Ken Shamrock's sister, help Val Venus, her love interest in that storyline. Instead of her brother, Kim Shamrock snapped, going out the ring, confronting his sister. I believe he got slapped by his sister as well. Billy Gunn then intervened, hitting Ken Shamrock a couple times, throwing him into the ring. Val Venus with the roll up. Billy Gunn with the quick 3 count. 1, 2, 3. Val Venus is the new Intercontinental Champion. Important to note, at this pay-per-view, Road Dogg was supposed to go against Al Snow for the Hardcore Championship, but he had to forfeit his belt for personal issues, and he had got suspended and had to go to rehab. But on screen, they wrote him off as an injury, but he kind of lost the belt for a little personal slip up, and you don't see Road Dogg versus Al Snow that night. Instead, I think you see Al Snow and Hardcore Holly came on the scene. I guess by Road Dogg fucking up, it gave a way for Hardcore Holly to get out that Bob Holly gimmick, and he became Hardcore Holly, now that I'm thinking about it. But let's keep going. Also that night, we saw X-Pac and Triple H versus Kane and Chyna. Chyna got some good licks in on X-Pac and Triple H. Salute to both of them, how they worked with her during the match. Let her get some good spots. X-Pac also put some good moves on her to show her how to see how she can sell moves, and she did a pretty good job if you ask me. She slammed Triple H. She power slammed X-Pac. You know what I'm saying? She took a good backdrop from X-Pac as well. X-Pac began to chase after Shane McMahon. Shane McMahon was ringside. He tried to interfere. So he got out, chased Shane McMahon to the back, leaving Triple H by himself. Triple H attempted to pedigree Chyna, but ended up getting chokeslammed by Kane in the 1, 2, 3 win from Kane. X-Pac leaving Triple H to get beat up by Chyna and Kane. I just didn't know if that was something right there that could have started a feud as I was rewatching it, but you know. Now let's get into Monday Night Raw, February 15th, 1999. Triple H and X-Pac cut a promo. X-Pac calls out Chyna and Kane for a rematch. Shane, Chyna, and Kane come out. Shane gives Chyna the night off, basically declining the challenge from Triple H and X-Pac. Instead, X-Pac and Triple H start talking shit to Shane McMahon and challenging Shane McMahon to take Chyna's spot in the tag team matchup, in which Shane accepts but under one condition. X-Pac put up his European title during the match. X-Pac accepts. So it was official. We had Triple H and X-Pac versus Shane, McMahon, and Kane with the European title on the line. Crazy, but it was real. That night we saw Billy Gunn versus Val Venus for the IC title. A distraction from Ryan Shamrock caused Billy Gunn to lose the match, and Val Venus retained his Intercontinental Championship. It was a quick match. Also that night, we saw X-Pac and Triple H versus Shane and Kane with the European Championship on the line. Long story short, Chyna gave Shane the belt to hit X-Pac with. 1, 2, 3. Shane won and won the European Championship. While Triple H was outside fighting Kane, so he couldn't help X-Pac. Shane was happy. They celebrated. They celebrated like a mug after he won that belt. He said, "What you gonna do next?" "I'm going to Wrestlemania, baby." Salute to Shaman, man. He was really in his bag, man. He was really in his bag. And salute to Vince for having confidence in him, giving him an opportunity. Monday Night Raw, February 22nd, 1999. We saw Billy Gunn versus Ken Shamrock, which led to a no contest all-out brawl between Billy Gunn, Ken Shamrock, and Val Venus. We also saw a promo with Shane McMahon where he challenged X-Pac to a match at WrestleMania, but first he would have to beat Chyna. That night we saw X-Pac versus Chyna. During the match, X-Pac began to chase Shane McMahon around the ring. While he was doing that, Triple H put the pedigree on Chyna, knocking her out cold. X-Pac ran in the ring, got the 1, 2, 3 win. He will go on to WrestleMania to face Shane McMahon for his European title. Monday Night Raw, March 1st, 1999. The Dogg is back. Road Dogg is back, and he started off Monday Night Raw by facing the corporate champ, The Rock, in a WWF title match. The Rock was able to win the match with the People's Elbow. I thought it was a good match. Also, assist from Paul White giving Road Dogg a headbutt. Yeah, that's right, Paul White. I forgot to say that. He showed up during one of the pay-per-views. And I think it was the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. He showed up during that pay-per-view trying to help Vince McMahon in that cage match, threw Stone Cold into the cage, which made the cage break, and Stone Cold was able to exit out of the cage, winning the match. So Paul White, the Big Show, was a part of the corporation as well. The corporation is crazy strong, mad members. But anyways, the Road Dogg lost that match, which led into a surprise by Al Snow and Hardcore Holly, leading into Road Dogg challenging them to a hardcore match in the parking lot. So Road Dogg was fighting all night. It's probably punishment, but he was fighting all night. But let's go into Monday Night Raw, March 8th, 1999. The New Age Outlaws back for one night only. That was crazy because they said back for one night only, the New Age Outlaws. So they was really splitting up the New Age Outlaws. They was sending them on some single path missions. So it's crazy, right? That's why I'm kind of going back, because I had to get a gist of everything. Everybody was still DX, but people was doing their own solo moves, and it was kind of everywhere. Chyna was everywhere. Well, she already left, so it was like the fall of DX. It was definitely the fall of DX. But anyways, the New Age Outlaws went against Al Snow and Hardcore Holly, where they won. Al Snow turned on Hardcore Holly. He don't really like Hardcore Holly like that. Hit him with his head down. Outlaws get the 1, 2, 3. Also that night, we saw X-Pac with Triple H versus Test with Shane and Chyna. It was a double interference. First we had Chyna, but Triple H stopped her from interfering. The ref got distracted. Shane McMahon hit X-Pac with the European belt. Test got the 1, 2, 3. Triple H calls out Chyna, promises to beat her up, tired of all her bullshit and her screwing over DX. Later on that night, Chyna came to the ring and told Triple H to come on down. She ain't running from him, so it was about to be Triple H versus Chyna. Kane came down, was about to hit Triple H with that patented fireball that he hit X-Pac with a few months back. Instead, Triple H grabbed Chyna. Chyna got hit in the face with the fireball. Kane threw Triple H out of the ring and began to beat up on the medical staff and everybody as he was concerned for Chyna. Kane was clearly having some type of feelings for Chyna. Monday Night Raw, March 15th, 1999. We saw Road Dogg versus Val Venus for the IC title. Road Dogg was able to win the match with a DDT and become the new Intercontinental Champion. DX celebrated in the back, and we also saw Billy Gunn asking for a title shot. Yeah, I know, right? He asked for a title shot. Billy Gunn was already gunning for the IC title, but he couldn't get his hands on it. Then his boy Road Dogg win it. So they showed a cutscene where he like, "You gonna give me a shot? You gonna give me a shot?" But later on that night, Billy Gunn had his own match for the Hardcore title against Hardcore Holly, in which he won the match. So now Billy Gunn was the new Hardcore champion. Road Dogg was the new Intercontinental champion. Triple H called out Kane for a fight. Side note, I must state that at this time, The Undertaker and the Ministry of Darkness turned their attention to Vince McMahon. So Vince McMahon was going through it at this time, and he needed Kane's help as he thought Undertaker was at his home trying to get his family, Stephanie McMahon. So during the match, Vince McMahon came down to get Kane for help. And he was like, "Kane, fuck this match. Basically, I need your help. You the only one that can talk to your brother. I need you right now." And that's when Kane, quote unquote, Kane got into the ring, pulled off the mask. It was the Undertaker the whole time, fucking with Vince McMahon, letting him know it's that easy. It's just that easy. I can get you just that easy. He didn't lay a hand on him too much, just grabbed him up a little bit. At that moment, did Triple H get the speech from Vince McMahon? Did he start recruiting Triple H silently? I don't know. Monday Night Raw, March 22nd, 1999. The New Age Outlaws go one-on-one. Champion versus champion. The Intercontinental Champion, Road Dogg, versus the Hardcore Champion, Billy Gunn. Title versus title. When Road Dogg came out, he did his intro, and he also stated, "I don't like this one bit." And that's important to say because Road Dogg did not like the fact that him and Billy Gunn had to break up. And that made me go back and try to find some interviews with him actually discussing this topic. And I was able to find an interview on his Oh You Didn't Know podcast where Road Dogg stated that him and Billy Gunn knew that they were splitting up around that time, that they lost the belt to Boss Man and Ken Shamrock. Road Dogg also stated that he didn't want Vince to split up the New Age Outlaws. He basically cried about it. He felt like he needed Billy Gunn by his side. He was a good entertainer. He was good with the mic, but he wanted his homie right beside him, right behind him. You know what I mean? And hey, I understand that as well. Also got some things from Bruce Pritchard podcast. Bruce Pritchard stated they wanted to split them up, them being the New Age Outlaws, have Billy become Mr. Ass, and Road Dogg go off to do singles. Well, I don't know if it was DX technically splitting. Chyna was already gone. She was the backbone of DX. They showing it now. She helped them out a lot, helped them win a lot of matchups, and now she's with the corporation helping them win. So DX was already falling every week. You get what I'm saying? So let's get into it. Road Dogg versus Billy Gunn. Road Dogg was able to tie up Billy Gunn and give him a side headlock. Billy Gunn was able to give a shoulder takedown to Road Dogg. Threw him into the corner, a couple punches. A big punch by Road Dogg to Billy Gunn. Got him a 2 count. Billy Gunn surprisingly did a hurricanrana to Road Dogg. That was a surprise to me. He did 3 hip tosses. Billy Gunn was getting into it. Road Dogg was able to reverse the corner splash, but he ran right into a famouser by Billy Gunn. Al Snow, Goldust, Val Venus all came down and interfered in the match, causing it to be a no contest. We then saw Road Dogg and Billy Gunn battling off Al Snow, Goldust, and Val Venus, basically battling as a tag team again. It was good to see that. Knowing what I know, it was good just to see them battling as a tag team. Shane McMahon also challenged X-Pac to a street fight that night, a British street fight. They was introducing the Mean Street Posse. X-Pac came out there to the parking lot ready for the fight. Started whooping up on Shane. The Mean Street Posse pulled up in the form, whooped X-Pac ass for a little bit, and then skirted off on X-Pac. I was wondering where the hell was Degeneration X to help X-Pac at that moment. But again, you start to slowly see everybody fending for themselves. You feel what I'm saying? So DX was slowly breaking up. A year later, WWE Wrestlemania 15, 1999. We saw Boyz II Men singing at the beginning of the show. They also showed Big Pun in the crowd during this event. But let's get straight into it. We had a triple threat hardcore title match with the hardcore champion Billy Gunn versus Hardcore Holly versus Al Snow. The match ended with Billy Gunn hitting Hardcore Holly with a chair, throwing Al Snow through a table which was set up in the corner. Then he hit Al Snow with his patented Famouser move onto a chair. But then Hardcore Holly hit Billy Gunn with a chair and pinned Al Snow quickly, getting a 1-2-3 win and becoming a new Hardcore champion. Salute to Hardcore Holly. Alright, next match we saw Road Dogg versus Val Venus versus Goldust versus Ken Shamrock in a four corners elimination match for the IC title. Val Venus and Ken Shamrock continued their ongoing feud, and they got counted out of the match, leaving Road Dogg and Goldust as the last two participants in this match. Road Dogg was able to reverse a power slam from Goldust and do a roll up and get the pin. 1-2-3. I must add, he did get slight assist from Ryan Shamrock, who was rocking with Goldust at the time. Goldust got rid of her ass after that match. It was funny because Val Venus got rid of her ass after the match that she helped him beat Ken Shamrock. He got rid of her ass. Another match of WrestleMania 15, we saw Triple H versus Kane, continuing their feud, which involved Chyna. Now, during the match, Chyna came down, and everybody knows she was siding with Kane at the time. She threw the steel stairs into the ring, but Triple H was able to get the advantage with those steel stairs. He put a couple moves on Kane with those steel stairs, but that led into a choke slam from Kane to Triple H. Now, before Kane could win the match, Chyna hopped on the apron with a chair and demanded Kane let her come in the ring and hit Triple H with the chair because they was beefing, you know what I'm saying? Kane let her in the ring. He should have learned from the corporation the last time. Kane let her in the ring. She had the chair. Instead of hitting Triple H, she hit Kane, trading on Kane and the corporation, reuniting with Triple H. The crowd went crazy. So, hey, DX might be back as we know it. You know what I'm saying? Hold on. But later on that night, we had X-Pac versus Shane McMahon for the European Championship. Shane came down with Test and Pat and Briscoe. X-Pac came down alone. Where was DX? I know Road Dogg and Billy had already been in matches and Triple H was already in a match, but where were they at to support X-Pac? We don't know. But anyways, the match went on, and as the match went on, Triple H and Chyna came down to support they boy X-Pac, so everyone thought, but instead Triple H traded on X-Pac, hit him with the pedigree, causing him to lose the match. The Outlaws and Kane came down to help, but it was too late. Triple H traded on Degeneration X. He joined the McMahon Corporation with Chyna. It was real. Degeneration X was basically over as we know it. And I'm going to stop this video right here because right now, the state of DX, we got the Outlaws breaking up to do their singles thing. We got X-Pac doing his thing. And now we already had Chyna leave DX, and now we got Triple H leaving DX. So the leader of DX is gone. The backbone of DX is gone. We got the last three members, which is the glue to DX, if you ask me, the Outlaws and X-Pac. X-Pac had a tremendous, incredible year in 98, 99. He really put on. As you relive this, you see that he was at his best. He was that 1-2-3 kid that we all know he could be. Me personally, I think he could have been the Rey Mysterio that we all love. X-Pac was that good. He put on during that time. Him having the European Championship was well deserved. He had his storylines with Kane. Road Dogg had his shit going on. Billy Gunn had his shit going on. It's kind of blurry as far as them being DX, so I'm going to stop it here, but I will most likely do a part 2 on what happened after Triple H traded on DX and see how the guys kept going with the DX name, because there's some story still involved in that. It's a nice storyline still involved in that. Man, kind of a long video. I had to do a lot of research trying to figure out how to put this thing together, but that's it right there, man. Chyna and Triple H leave DX, basically breaking up the family. Yes, you still had those three, but the DX as we know it was over. So WrestleMania 15, a year later, because a day after WrestleMania 14, Triple H formed the DX Army, and at WrestleMania 15, he officially broke it up. Appreciate everybody for checking out this video. Please hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't. Salute to my boy for the request video. This was fun. It was a challenge. I had to make sure I give it to you my way, the vibe way. Hopefully you like it, bro. I'm gonna try to get back at you with that part 2. Other than that, check out more content on the channel. Y'all know I do sneaker content. I do music content as well. Whatever you like, just subscribe to that and keep vibing with me as we grow. Other than that, man, lead with love. I appreciate y'all for vibing with me as always. It's your boy Fuze. Y'all have a great day. Believe, and I'm gone. Bye.